second part of our topic. So interesting. We had the first one, we thank God. Submission is the title, and the subtitle for the first one was Submission to States, and then submission in the biblical sense, that is, in relationship between the Father and the Son, submission in the Church of God, and how it is so different from the state. And the one from the state carries the force of coercion. If you don't pay your tax, you'll be slammed with penalty. If you run the traffic rule, you must pay. They will get you to court, and you might even be charged criminally if you flout the law and you don't submit. That is that. But it is not. It wasn't so with between the Father and the Son. It is something they enter into willingly, lovingly. It's a relationship that was mutual, and so it is. And the extension of that is what we see in the church between the set man, the pastor, and the congregants. And they come into that union willingly, and when they think it's too hard, they can leave the church because there is no compulsion, no coercion. And we've seen pastors that resigned because the heat was too hard, and they left. They went to grab some job at Kmart, Walmart. They said, I'd rather be serving chicken than to serving men, because men are so worried. So, praise the Lord. And the next phase here, the second phase, the second segment that we're in right now, is submission in the marriage setting between the man and the woman. How is it supposed to look? How does it feel? Before I start that, let's just pray. Father, today we thank you again for this time, because this is a topic that a lot of people really been pondering about, and this is a topic that has taken diverse, different form of direction. Something that is meant to bring joy, and it has turned to become something else. So Lord, give us direction and lead us to properly lay this down in order to bring clarity by your Spirit to the hearers. In Jesus' name. Amen. Now here, this is wonderful. I have here with me my wife, of course, of 34 years now marriage, or we did celebrate at 34 or 35, 34. You see, now, well, I thought it was 30. I was thinking ahead of, okay, it's 34 years that we've been married. And when I married her, she was like 26. Now she has spent way more time with me than she ever did with her parents. So I thank God for that. And to my right here, of course, you know, my son, the pastor, Pastor Daniel Femi Odukoya. And beside him and to my right is his lovely wife. And they've been married now for 3 years. 4 years. I always 1 year somehow. They've been married for 4 years, and so I bring you two generations of couples. If you want, you can say the old school couple, and then you'll be hearing from this side, and you'll be hearing from the new school. All right. So it's going to be interesting. What we are talking about is submission in relationship. So I'm going to kick the ball rolling by calling on Pastor Femi to tell us what you think about it.
Yeah, so thinking about this topic of submission, it reminds me of, the beginning, right? When you first learn about submission. I mean, who honestly enjoys submission? The very act of submission isn't something that you necessarily enjoy doing, but it's something that is important for all of us to understand the value of. Right from the beginning, the Lord had it established, this hierarchy, and he put that in place from the beginning. And I think what we tend to do as people is that we can distort that which the Lord has placed. And so I'm excited to talk about this on different levels, really in the context of relationships and marriages, because it comes up. It comes up every single day. You brush up against this idea of submission, submitting one to another, understanding what it means and the value of it. It's tremendously important when we can appreciate why the Lord put that in place, why that word submission, although we have a tendency to look at it from a different perspective, but why once you understand the principle and the heart behind submission, why it really frees you up to be all that you're meant to be.
Okay, well, we put the postcard out, and we said submission. And there's a picture of this person just thinking, subdue, dominate, modern day slavery. So what do you say submission is? Is that any of the three, or what is your take on submission in the house?
In the home?
No.
I think in the 21st century, I think there is a negative connotation when it comes to submission, the idea of what submission means in the context of marriage.
Is she loud enough? Is it on?
In the context of a marriage.
Okay.
And so, from a personal standpoint, for me, in my marriage, I don't perceive submission to be demeaning. I don't see it as a sign of weakness. I don't see it as a sign of degradation. It all depends on the context in which it's used in. In my marriage, submission to me as a wife in my home means that it's a sign of strength, because for me as a wife, the word says that man should not be alone, and so therefore the Lord creates a helper. And so for me, the role of a wife is one of being supportive. It's one of empowering my husband. And so I find that in submitting to my husband, I'm empowering him. I'm empowering him to be all that the Lord has called him to be. For him to be and for him to perform in the capacity that the Lord has called him to perform in, he needs me. He needs my help. He needs my support. He needs me to encourage him. And it's a sign of strength. I remember that early on when my husband and I started dating, he used to quote a lot. And I've listened to the Bible study a lot. He likes to quote a lot of things that I say, so it's my turn. He would say a lot that in the general scheme of things, a woman should be loved. A woman, at the core of it, needs to be loved. And at the very core of it, a man needs to be respected. And so every time he would say it, I didn't really understand where he was coming from. I'm just like, Pastor Femi, here he goes again. He's giving me the lyrics. But it wasn't until, we got married and, life experiences set in that I really understood what he really meant. For my husband, for me to respect him, for me to show that I honor him in that way, it empowers him. I've seen him function in both capacities, in a way where, we're conflicting in ideas, we're not meeting, we're not agreeing. I see how he performs. I see how he carries himself. I see how he operates. And I've also seen him in the capacity of, me honoring him, me, showing him that respect, and, being that helpmate that the Lord has called me to be for him. And I've seen him flourish. I've seen him grow. I've seen him develop into who God has called him to be. And so I really believe that it depends on the context in which it's used.
Okay. Yes, that's a question. Give out the mic.
The question is for you,
Yeah.
Senegal. They would like to know how, in your daily life, how do you, examples of how you submit to your husband?
Thank you. Before she answered the question, I have a question. I was going to throw a question at her. The lady that just asked, whoever asked the question, you're just truly in the spirit. What when he decided this is what I want, and every fiber of your body will say no, and then and I'm saying it. So how do you go from there?
It's a good question. And again, I believe that that's where submission, instilling a submission in your marriage over time, long term, comes into play. Because I'm submissive to my husband, it doesn't mean that I'm docile, I can't speak, I'm meek. Because of the position that I'm in, the Lord has honored me enough that my husband seeks my opinion. You know, he doesn't move without my opinion. You know, he wants to know where I stand, where I come from. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that
You're
you
not
know,
always in agreement.
we're always in agreement. That does not definitely
When you
speak-
are,
So when-
contrary to each other in terms of your agreement.
the respect is there. One thing I will say, because he honors me that way, the respect is there. But there are times where we do not disagree. And that's where wisdom comes into play. As a wife, you've expressed yourself respectfully, of course. You've expressed yourself, you've expressed your opinion. And I will say there are times where I have said, I don't think this is a good decision. I don't think we should do this. And he does what he wants to do. And in those times, like you mentioned last week, I send him to God. That's when I send him to God. And I tell the Lord, Lord, I've listened, you deal with him. And in those contexts, he always comes back and he's like,
Okay,
yeah.
good. Another question.
Yes. Can you expatiate on sending him to God?
Oh, definitely. My idea of sending him to God is reporting. I get on my knees and I report him to God. Lord, I've explained my point of view. I know in my heart of heart this is not a good idea. Speak to him. And if he does not listen, teach him and let him know, show him that his decision is the wrong one. And the Lord will deal with him.
All right, now that's wonderful. Now let me tell you, let me just take you back to the Bible. The Bible said, what is it? Obey your, was it? Submit to your husband, right?
Yes.
But don't you just, I'm just carrying, just think, here, come along with me here. Will you say it was kind of a possibility that Sarah reported Abraham to God? And the Lord said, hey, Abraham, listen to your wife on this occasion. Send out the bondwoman. Because Abraham was saying, no, that's my son, it's not going to. And then the Lord said, hey, man, listen to your wife. Send out the. This is what, and I said it the other time. I said, you guys, have you ever watched the movie called War Room?
Yeah.
You go deal with God concerning the husband that is all out of order, and let the Lord touch him in the way that you cannot touch him. Ladies, you can't win macho to macho with a man. Go on your knees. That's the source of power. What do you, I was going to say one more, but I'm going to give you a break a little bit. Now, this is my wife of 34 years, so. Do you know that I've reported her to the Lord? Yes, sir.
Submission.
You see, she's free to do what she wants to do many times, and that is the relationship. And one day one thing, I knew that this is not good for my wife, and it might hamper her health. And she insisted she wanted to do it, and I said, okay, let's pray. I won't give you the detail. And I pray, I said, Lord, show her today why she would never do this thing no more. And my wife said, amen. And my wife decided to go do what I didn't like for her to do, and I told her several times, don't do it. But when she came back that day, she knew she would never do it no more.
Lessons in experience.
So I won't need to fight and lock the door and say, you won't go and punch her. She's not a punching bag. Just like she went to deal with God about her husband, sometimes husband go deal with God about the wife, and the Lord will take over because he's a righteous judge. If I'm at fault, he will not even go ahead and say, yeah, you just sit down and eat your rice. But if he says, don't worry, I'll get her for you, and your life will still be in order. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, guys. I think it's a lifestyle submission, and I think it's something that, for my 34 years in marriage, it's just submission that has brought me this far. Although there are occasions that we have ups and downs, and like he just mentioned, a lot of times when he said, don't do this, I think if he commits me to God, it's just because he's a man of God, and the Spirit of God dwells in him. And I know several occasions, maybe I'm going to work at night, and he will say, don't go to work. If you go to work tonight, you need to take a break. Tell them you're not coming so that you can rest. If you go, something is going to happen, and I will go. And when I get there, I will get fired because I will be sleeping at job and they will fire me.
And that happened three.
That has
Different
happened like several occasions.
Well, let me explain to them so they understand. I'm not just using authority to just impose and say God will deal with you. No.
Yeah,
My
it
wife,
just-
we agreed together that if she works night shifts, then she must at least put in 3 hours studying once she's back, and put at least 3 hours before she goes to the next shift, that is the next night. But then we agreed, that's an agreement. But my wife will get up from work and go to store and check for sales and come back like around 2 instead of like 9. And then she'll walk around, take some people to look for something, and she won't sleep, and she wants to go to the next night shift. And we agree that anytime you never have time to rest, call in that you won't be able to come today because you need to balance things. But she will say, no, I have a job to go to. I say, oh, you just lost the job because now your health is greater than the job. So on 3 different occasions, she went to the job and she got fired on 3 different occasions. So it's not me. If I'm just being selfish, God will not follow what I say and bring it to bear. You see that? It wasn't like how this happened.
Well, in 34 years, 3 occasions, I'm still.
No, you're wonderful.
But if we look at it, submission, people have taken it to a different extent because I've seen, we've spoke to different marriages, we see how women are being maltreated just because of the word submission. And I learned something from Pastor Bimbo because she's very strong on women, and she will tell you that whatever you want a man to do for you. That was at the early stage of my marriage. She said, whatever you want a man to do for you, just be submissive to him. Being submissive doesn't make you to be a fool, because you are in this marriage together. So she would say, just obey him. The only thing you cannot do if he asks you to kill somebody. But whatever he wants you to do, just do it. Don't go somewhere, but occasionally we are flesh. So that's what happened to me, and I've learned from it that each time he said, don't do this. So I would say like 4 times in my marriage life, and he said, don't do it, because he's a man of God in the will of God. So he was able to see ahead of me and able to tell me, don't do this, and I went ahead and did it, and now this is the result of it. So, but Pastor Bimbo will always say, just whatever they ask you to do, just do. It doesn't mean you are a fool, you are not a fool. But because God has made them to be the head, and God is the head of our husband, of men, so, and they are our heads, so we need to bow to whatever they want us to do. Do it with a clean mind, and if you find out that they are not in agreement with what you are doing, just take it to the Lord in prayer. And I know that there are some times when he's ministering, and he will say, and I have something to tell him. I want to go ahead and tell him. And he will say, don't tell me. Take it to the Lord in prayer. When he's preaching, if I notice something, I would write it down and pass it to him. He said, no, just take it to the Lord in prayer. And it happens several times that when he's preaching and I have something to say, I'll just sit there and I'll be praying about it. And within a minute, he will say exactly what I want him to say. So that's one thing that I've learned. And like I was saying about Pastor Bimbo, she would say, if they ask you whatever, if he tells you, don't go to that church, don't go. If he tells you, don't pay your tithe, don't go. Whatever he tells you to do, she said, don't do it. But just keep praying about it so that the Lord will touch his heart and he will be able to change. But in marriages now, people have taken it for granted. Men have misused it. I'm not saying that women too doesn't have their problem, but a lot of men, we've seen abuses everywhere. They have misused the word abuse. They've counted a woman to be a slave, and they've treated them as slaves. So there should be a balance in between. We should all come in agreement to agree and to disagree. It's okay to agree and to disagree because that strengthens the marriage so that you know your weaknesses and you all work together.
Thank you for that. Do we have questions so far?
Yeah.
Yes, let's get questions. I'll be coming later to lay down my own conclusive opinion in conclusion, but we want to be able to take in all. Yes, ma'am.
There are two questions. Can you beat your wife to submission?
Can I?
The question is, can you beat your wife to
Oh,
submission?
well, okay, that was the second question.
And the second one is, how important is it to marry a godly spouse? Because you're talking about reporting to God, but what if the spouse doesn't hear God?
Okay, that is the root of the trouble. The Bible says, "Thou shalt not yoke with unequally yoke," because this man is macho, is beautiful, is handsome, is six-pack. That is flimsy. That's rubbish. Because at the end of the day, you may be getting married to the devil himself in a beautiful appearance. So now you are not on the same line, you are not on the same page, and you cannot move together. How can two people work together unless they agree? And so there is no agreement. You are on different page of the book, and now what happens is that what you see is what you get. And it's so unfortunate that I'm just kind of strict like that. But the first thing you want to do is never to connect with somebody that you are not in agreement with. Agreement is that what is the manual? What is your marriage manual? Is it God? Is it the same God though? Now, secondly, I can't even think about. Now, we've married for 35 years. I have my children here. He is the firstborn. He's over 30 something, almost. About the same age as my time in marriage. Now, this is it. They have never seen me put my hand on my wife. The man that will beat his wife to submission is nothing but a beast. It's not accepted. It's not approved. Not in modern world. That is why some people will say, is there submission something like a modern day slavery? It is slavery. And we know of places where women can only be seen as a piece of furniture but can never be heard. And they will beat them and even tie them up and kill them overnight because the man has authority and he doesn't have just one of them, 2 or 3 or 4. He can discard at will because that is the culture of that place. But when you marry like that, you know what you are getting into. But aren't you glad that we have God that liberates us from the slavery mentality? The woman, let me tell you the role of the woman. The woman was taken from the rib bone of the man. Do you understand what that means? It wasn't taken from the foot bone. It wasn't taken from part of the skull. What is the function of the rib cage? It protects the heart. So the woman's role, the woman was taken from the rib that protects. Her role is to protect the heart of the man. To be on the side, not something to trample on the foot, not something to become a punching bag, not something to be kicking like a football. But you see, the relationship is what will bring submission. The love that when it flows, we say you can die for her. So your desire, now you understand me say something like, if she refused to take the normal rest, then she should not go to work. Some people will throw their wife to go and do morning and evening shift and just have little time. No. They're not money-making machine. When they are sick, it becomes a problem. So you want to guard against the fact that she overstretched herself and she now collapsed one day and she starts to have nose bleeding or running temperature. It comes back on you. So you must cherish and nourish and protect. That is it. It doesn't mean that you guys will not have argument. We call that intense fellowship. You just and when that comes, there's a way you disagree to go back and agree. If you lay your hand on a woman, you are not fit to be a man. Yes.
Can you beat your wife into submission? Yes, you can. Yes, you can beat someone into submission. But does that kind of submission where they are submitting to you because of fear, Does that kind of submission honor God? No, it doesn't. So if you put your hands on someone and they begin to be submitted to you because they're afraid of you, that's not real submission. That is the type of it's almost as if you're ruling over them in a way like an iron fist, where they're not free to submit to you because of faith that they have in you, or faith that they have in the God that's in you. Submitting to you out of fear is not the same as submitting to you because they see the God ordained structure that you are called to be their husband, they're called to be your wife. That doesn't honor them. So if someone is submitting to you because they're afraid of you, that does not honor God. And that's not honorable in a marriage. That's not how it's supposed to be.
And actually, as go back again, you cannot beat your wife to submission. I know he said you can because that's not the honorable way. No, you cannot. Because when you beat, not in a civilized society, if you beat your wife, you will go to jail. And your life can be ruined totally from that. Well, you can choose to do that, but it's not without consequence. We want to set up, we want to set up a ministry that can start to take in battered women that have been beaten in the relationship, so to bring them in and nurture them back again, and to come back into to purpose, and to be able to fulfill their God's divine and design purpose. But this is the point. There are different organizations that are looking for such people. When they report you, if you beat your wife and they call the police, you are ruined. There are so many things that you may not even be able to do no more. For example, in the places like America, in London, the Western world, you can do that in countries where they don't care about the law. But if you do that, you are not away from the law of God. The law will get you one day. You don't do that. You shouldn't do that. And I decree you cannot do that. He is saying to point that, okay, well, some people do what they want to do. But it's against God's will and it's against the rule of the law of the land. Yes. Yes, another question.
Yes, I just want to try to bring a balance to this. And the area I'm looking at this from is, first of all, we're talking about submission right now. But one thing I've come to realize is when there is problem of submission, it's not because of the man or the woman. It's because the woman is actually finding it hard to submit because there is nothing to submit to, because there is no leadership, there is no direction in the first place. So the challenge is when the man doesn't have anything to offer, and the woman looks at the man and says, this man doesn't have anything to offer me in terms of what I'm actually able to submit to, then there's a conflict of interest. Now, what the man resorts to doing is saying, well, the woman is not submitting to me, and then there's conflict. But I'm just saying, from my own experience, what I realize is, if the woman is not submitting in the first place, it's because there is something missing. And until that is missing is dealt with, you're just going to keep going back and forth about, oh, she's not submitting, or why is she not submitting? Until you find out what is the reason why the woman is not submitting, then get to the crux of it, deal with that, and then you will be able to actually get to the bottom of submission. Because not only I want us to deal with it spiritually, I also want us to be practical about some of these things, so that way people can have a wholesome idea of how to walk about it. So I'm looking at it that when a woman is not submitting, and I know we're all spiritual people, so we probably might not be able to get to the bottom of it, but I just want to throw it out there. When a woman is not submitting, I believe as a man that there's a reason why she's not submitting. She's looking for leadership. She's looking for something that you are not giving. And if you are able to address that, the submission will become easier. And I want us to see and deal with that.
Okay, now, you go ahead.
This issue of submission, in my opinion, it's not an overnight thing. It's not something that is going to happen overnight. It's something learned with experience. I think in context of what he brought up now, there's a reason why the man is not in a position of leadership. And that could be as a result of very, very many different things. Now, to say that the woman, there's nothing in the man for the woman to submit to. There are different ways you can submit to a man. You know, whether or not he's bringing income into the house, whether or not he's working, whether or not he sits in the house all day and doesn't do anything. That doesn't stop you from performing the duties of a wife. I will cook for you. I will make sure your house is clean. And over time, a man, if you are doing what you are supposed to do as a woman, over time, a man will not. Because in submission, submission builds the man up. Submission empowers. A man will not watch his wife doing what she's supposed to be doing and sit down, wake up every morning and sit down. It's not ordained. And if they do that, then it comes back to the question of equally yoked. Do you marry who you are supposed to? Do you marry who you were called to marry? Because there is a difference between being married to a man, a godly man, a man who is walking in accordance of the will of God, and there's a difference between marrying a man in the world. And another thing that I want to say, I want to touch on as well, is that submission is not just to empower the man. In submitting to my husband, I'm empowering him, one. But because I am empowering my husband is respecting me. My husband is showing me more love. There is a difference between a woman that you see that is loved and a woman that comes from a home that is not loved. The way that she carries herself, the way that she approaches people, the way that she talks, there's a difference in it. And if you are, it's give and take. In marriage is about give and take. You know, because I honor my husband will honor me. I flourish underneath my husband. I'm able to fulfill all that God has called me to be. And so I cannot stress the importance, especially to the single people out there, I cannot stress the importance of marrying somebody that you are equally yoked with. Marrying a sound Christian man. Because you cannot love somebody into Christianity. You cannot do that. You can't say, because I love him, I will carry him and lead him to God. He has to have that encounter by himself. You can't say that because I love him, God is going to, you can't share that. And so, just to come back to what you're saying, it's so important to marry somebody that is biblically sound. And so for the women who are in situations right now where there is no leadership there are no godly men, I want to stress the importance of really just staying consistent in prayer and just really taking him to God. Because if you're that kind of woman who every day you're saying, you're not going to do this, you're not doing this for me, you're not doing that for me, it's not going to get better. It's not.
I'm going to be giving you time, so I'm going to be giving you time slots. Not just you. Okay, all right. Yes. So, do we have a question now? You have a question after the one that's coming from line.
We have a lot of questions.
A lot of questions.
Okay, the first one is a statement. I cannot submit to a devil because of the name of marriage.
Because you should not have married a devil.
Well, so the question is what happens?
There's a statement. Let's go.
The second one says, if I started my relationship without God, and I'm a Christian willing to submit to him, but he abuses me, I'm trying to make him leave, but he doesn't want to leave. Leave where should I leave? What should I do? I'm the breadwinner.
Okay. All right. Let's take the next one. We'll come into all that.
The third one is, I was abused in my marriage till I don't understand the meaning of marriage anymore.
You see, let me just read this part excuse me, you can write this down and go back to it later on. 1 Peter chapter 3. 1 Peter chapter 3 from verse 4. Please write it down. But let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the ornament of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God of great price. For after this manner in the old time, the holy women also who trusted in God adorned themselves, being in subjection unto their own husband. Listen, 6. Even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are. You are the daughters of Eve, as long as ye do well and are not afraid with any amazement. Now, 7. Likewise, ye husband, dwell with them, that is your wives, according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife, as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered. Finally, be ye all of one mind, having compassion one for another, love as brethren, be pitiful and cautious. This is what we are saying. There is a call for the man to love and adore his wife. There is a call for the wife not to base everything on external, but to be within, inside, a woman of God that will respect as God has ordained. Now let me go back. When you are the breadwinner, this man just sits down and abuse you, and he won't leave. So sad. It's unfortunate. I'm not happy to hear that. But one said that she just came into the marriage, and at this point, because of the torture and everything, she's even has lost the meaning of what marriage should look like. It's unfortunate. And now, we won't go hit you on the head and say, you should not have married ungodly, and I should not. Once somebody said, I cannot continue to submit to a devil. But when you have a situation like that, please make a report. That's the only means you have. If you marry a devil, the devil will probably not even listen to his own mother. So he will continue to beat and kick you and make you like a football and make your life miserable. You enter into this relationship seeking completion, happiness, joy, and expansion, and children and all that, and it turn around to become a prison cell, jailhouse for you. Go to the law. Take him to court. I will not say take him to the pastor, because he won't even listen. Even when he's not even a member of the church, when he's not even a Christian, he won't even respect no pastor. Take him to court. Let the Lord sort things out. And if you choose to, bottom line, take him to court. And seek godly counsel.
Yes, it's good to take him to court. And also sometimes if the man is abusive, I think it's time for a little bit of separation. You can go your separate ways just for a few months
and see
if that will bring them, both of you, together. Because you don't want to die in a relationship where the man is kicking you every day, because we've lost a lot of women to abusive husband. And that is why it's important in our culture. If you are marrying somebody, they want to go and ask what's the family background. They used to do that in the olden days, but now nobody is checking anymore. They will even want to know if there is mental illness in the family. They want to know everything, everything that has ever happened in that family, because they feel it's a generational thing. It's somebody being abusive too. So there are a lot of things that they used to do in those days that it works for them. But then now we don't look at it, we don't do that. So they always recommend, if it is an abusive relationship, let you guys go apart for about 6 months. Then you think maybe then you can come back again and see. Then staying apart will make you to realize what you are doing that is not right, both of you. Then you'll be able to work it out also from that point.
Thank you.
And I'm guessing that those are 3 separate questions, the way they ask us. So the first person says, okay, I married a devil. Well, all of us who've been married, at some point, you may wake up one day and feel, what was I thinking getting into this situation?
I just woke up from a bad dream.
And so, categorizing him as a devil means that there's a lot of hurt, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of things that have happened there. And I think you have to decide within you is the issues in him, the dysfunction that he's showing, is that greater than the love of Christ that's in you? Which one is, because when you look at these 2 forces, there are 2 forces that are happening in a marriage. There's love that should be emanating from one to another. And there's the dysfunction that we all carry. We all have issues that we carry. And so you have to decide within yourself, is that, can I overcome, like that scripture that Pastor had read that talked about how with your decorum, with your the way of carrying yourself, with your way of walking in love and submission, you can overpower almost those issues, those dysfunction that he brings to the table. And it's the same way for a man. You know, if you're married to a wife that doesn't respect you, that doesn't want to listen to you, that does whatever, you know, and it's that clash, you have to decide that, am I going to live in that place and try to battle it out with, or am I going to decide that there's something in me that's greater than that is manifesting in her? And can that thing that's in me overcome that which is manifest? I mean, that's what it boils down to, is that you can't decide that this person's a devil, so I'm not going to submit to them anymore. You can't decide that, oh, you know, I'm married to this person, I'm stuck here, therefore I'm not going to submit to them because I see them as a devil. That causes friction. That causes long-term hurt and long-term pain. And there's no light at the end of the tunnel because you're going to constantly see him as that. So you're not going to do that. The other person that says that I'm the breadwinner, my husband may or may not bring in income. In this day and age, we live in a day and age where the income gap between men and women, and I want to focus it on the African American community for a second, because what you've seen a lot of black women, African American women, African women really rise to the top in many corporations, many companies, and it's great and it's tremendous. Unfortunately, African American men and black men haven't necessarily risen at the same rate. And so you've seen that happen where you can have two people come into a marriage and the woman may be making more. You know, she is quote unquote the breadwinner. And in those type of situations, whether she's the breadwinner or whether in a situation where she's older than the husband, whether in a situation where she has more experience, we have to understand this issue of submission and how when you step into that home, understanding what the hierarchy is. You may be the boss lady at work, but when you get into the house, understand what the role and the function is of each person, and how even though you could be over hundreds of people, when you come into your home, give your husband the respect that he deserves, irrespective of necessarily the income he makes, his age, his class, any of those things, and that will honor God by you doing that.
You know, it's so interesting to see that men, from my observation and from counseling other women, it's like men like to be treated like a little child. They like to be, just treat them like a little child. You know? And when you treat them that way, whatever, even if it is a diamond ring you want, whatever you want, they will give it to you. They just love that.
As long as they don't know that they are being treated as a little child.
Yeah. Yeah. What I mean is that respecting them, giving them the honor that is due to them, you know, before calling them at work, checking on them, preparing the food for them, put the food on the table for them, doing a lot of things. They don't necessarily need to know, but you as a godly woman, you walking in the way of God, you doing what the Lord has asked you to do, and surely they will give you, they will also respect you and they will honor you, because you can't force them to respect you. You cannot force a man to respect you, but first of all, and that is all in the same way that you cannot force somebody to change. You cannot change somebody, but when you yourself change and they see that change in you, they will like, is it the same woman I'm talking to every day that I'm punching every day and she's not talking, she's not saying anything? They will definitely change.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's take a question over there.
I just want to quickly say this. What Pastor Femi brought up is something that is really critical right now, and that is the issue of the wage difference and, you know, the educational difference. Now, we're human beings. As long as we still have our brain, switching caps is always going to be difficult. This lady that we're talking about is in charge of a corporation. She goes to work, she tells men to jump, they ask how high, man. She comes back home, the husband is trying to tell her to go and cook in the kitchen, after the husband has been sitting down at home all day, practically doing nothing, because the husband is still job searching. Now, we have to be realistic. We're asking these ladies to do something that, under normal circumstances, it takes only the Spirit of God to be able to help people to accomplish that. Even with that, your flesh is still going to be manifesting. So, I think tonight, one of the things that we need to start to do is how to be able to talk to the men. To not only get their act together, but also to be able to offer something that a woman will look forward to. Going back to what I said earlier, you might not even have a job, but what you're bringing in to the table, the kind of leadership, the kind of contribution that you're bringing in, we give that woman something to look forward to. And so tonight, one of the things that I think will work very well for us, if we are able to really get the men to start to think how to become creative and how to become really functional in getting the woman to submit and to follow their leadership. Because if that is missing, we're just going to be doing the women disservice by telling somebody that is a boss lady at work to come back home to see the guy that is playing video game and to submit to him.
Okay, this is how I'm looking at it. This is one extreme, and it's not such as extreme, it's so very common. And another common aspect, almost like that on the flip side, is when the women are full-time housewives. They get beat up over and over because they have not much to bring in terms of financial contribution. And I will encourage those such women to go and learn, go do some little diploma courses, go and develop your skill, become somebody for yourself. Don't just become one that will not be able to buy common sanitary provision without first seeking from the man. And so that puts man like a mini god over such women. So that's one side. On the other side, as the men that are almost like deadbeat dad that just stay home, sit home, won't move, and then start to command, but it's both ways. But that takes me to this passage, Ephesians 5 from verse 22. And the subtitle in the Bible says that marriage is symbolic of the church. And I went to the relationship between the father and the son, which is mutual and something that they both agreed to, and they move into it, and they did it willingly, because there's an overwhelming love from the father that comes to the son that makes the son never to think of equality with God in any way, even though he's God himself. And so it's a thing that he walked into mutually. Now this is what it says. Wives, submit yourself unto your husband as unto the Lord. Now, he said, submit yourself unto your own husband. No woman go about to any man anywhere except just one. So even when you command and control men, when you come in, that is that one that God has ordained for you, that you pick and you believe, you seek the Lord for, and that becomes the man. That's the only one you submit to, and the rest of the, don't go bowing to all the men. Your own husband as unto the Lord. I know I said something like that, as fitting unto the Lord. They asked me to explain that before. For the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the savior of the body. How is Christ head of the church? Love the church unconditionally. Died and shed his blood over the church. Continue to hold the church, continue to protect the church, continue to direct the church. That is the level of care and love and affection and compassion man's supposed to release unto the wife, so that the wife will not have any other reason but to. If the man does not have a job, can he drive to go pick the wife every time? When it's raining, can he just go drop the wife at work? Can he just come back home and just prepare some things, and hey, right now, this night, I won't want my wife to cook. Once she comes, hey, babe, I'm going to pick you right now. Let's go to this place and just eat, because I want you to, you've been going, you have this very crazy week. You guys trying to meet this deadline, and I said, I can't just put you to go to the kitchen. Can you just show some things to make her feel, even if you don't have the job now? So if you will not, it is either it's there or not. This overwhelming love that you pour over her, and you cherish her, and you care for her. Now every man knows that you just don't knock on the door and pick a woman and say, hey, it's my wife. No, you probably did some work. You open the car for her. You buy her rose flower. You send her card during birthday. You cherish her with love. You win her completely. And now what stopped you from doing that? If you continue to do, the wife will not look at any other way. Now this, let me continue. It said now, for the husband is the head of the wife, even as Christ is the head of the church, and he is the savior of the body. Now, therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, because of the overwhelming love of Christ for the church, so the wife should be subject to the man because of the overwhelming love of the man to the wife. Husbands, now, love your wives even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of the water of the word, that he might present it to himself a glorious, the way you treat your wife is the way you will meet her. If you look at some ladies that look so well, you know why? What happened that make you turn your neck 360? Why not make your wife to look like that? Encourage her. Invest in her. Pour into her. Love, affection. Help her even though she won't listen to, not to eat what she should not eat. Just help her.
Question.
All right, question.
Just on that note that he said, that's interesting. I have an example, so practical example to that. So this year, my job went through some job cuts, and I lost my job May of this year. So my wife was still working, and I didn't have a job. So one of the things, to go back to that point of being very practical, what I started doing was that, okay, it was unfair. She's working, I'm not working. Now, the way it was structured was that I was technically still bringing in income because they gave me a severance package. So I had months where I was still bringing in income, but I wasn't going somewhere 8 hours a day and coming back home. So what I started doing, you can ask her, I used to wash dishes. I was cleaning the floor. She'd come home, the place would be clean. I'd go pick up Nathan, I'd drop her off. I was doing things because I needed to, one, stay active, but two, it was just my way of just being, just showing that I can do other things. Now, not to say that I don't do these things on a regular basis, and I just started doing that. But what was unique about that was that, going back to that point, was that it was like, wow, you know what I'm saying? Like, she's out there 8 hours a day. I don't have 8 hours to go put in the company anymore. I can use some of that time to do things that she would normally do, or that sometimes I would do on different days. And so what I love about what we were able to do was that, going back to that practical component of looking at what can I do today to appreciate her. Can I go bring her lunch? I would come to the job and bring her lunch. We'd go out to eat. We would do different things to just say, babe, I thank you that you're having to put in 8 hours that I don't have to put in right now. You know what I'm saying? It's a way to say, you know what, and still being active, looking for jobs, doing those types of things. But she would never come home and find me just laying there having done nothing all day. Now that's not even my style. You can ask her, did I ever? I just couldn't do that, and because I needed to be active, I needed to be doing something, whether I'm looking for the next opportunity or looking for a business opportunity or cleaning up or picking up on things that we had forgotten to do, just things to just show her that, babe, if you're doing this for us and you're taking time to go put in 8 hours of the day, I can take time to do other things to help things push forward.
All right, now let me finish the last verse. Verse 28 of Ephesians 5. So ought men to love their wives as their own bodies. He that loveth his wife loveth himself. For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourished and cherished it, even as the Lord cherished the church. So you cherish her. Because by you loving her, you're loving yourself. So now what he said, let me go back and tell you what I did when he was like, we got married in 1984. Then I was a high school teacher. And my wife, a nurse, she works evening shift and come home like around 10 o'clock, 3 to 11 or so, 10. And with transportation, she comes home like 11. And as a teacher, I get up from school at 3 o'clock. I fix food for my wife, and I keeps it warm until she comes. And she just come in. fix him up, put him in bed. He's already sleeping. Give him a shower, set him in bed, and she would just walk in, and just the food is set. She just eat hot meal, and just go to sleep. This when he was like the baby, that I did. And even when the two of them were there, I'll get them ready, feed them. This one is sleeping, this one is sleeping, because I already got off at 3. I made my own normal hours, but I fixed her food. I fixed any kind of food, and I put it warm so that she just come in and eat. That is what, and I was working, but it's just that I'm free, available, but I just don't go sit and watch HBO. I fix her food, and then we go to bed when she comes.
Now I'll confess, I haven't learned how to cook yet, so I haven't been able to do that part. Because she's an amazing cook, and so I will learn how to do that, to be able to honor her like that.
Is that a question?
Yeah, there are questions. First then, after the questions. Okay, they commented after Minister Kunle made a comment about the man. He said, whoever is talking now, God bless you. Thank you for talking about the other side we never talk about. They would like more practical examples, because the situation where men cook for their wives or pamper their wives, it's probably 10% of marriages. So they would like more practical examples for the men listening on how to help their wives.
Okay, let them listen to this video will be first point, and secondly, if they want to contact us, the men, we'll be ready to do that internationally. People come here from overseas for counseling, and we'll let them know. Go ahead.
Okay, and a question is, what if the man pretends to be a Christian before marriage,
That's a deception. It tricked you into it.
but in the real sense of things, he's from an occultic family and is into occultism himself? The second question is, please, in a home where the man's sister is in charge, the sister is more like a spiritual wife, and this sister has no husband and no children, but sees herself as the brother's wife. Who does the wife submit to? The husband or the sister?
Wait a minute. This is how I'm going to do it. Now, who wants to take the one that the man deceived her and pretending to be angel of light, but it's a devil incarnate, in them to my words. And now they are married under false pretense. And now his true color just emerged. So how do you undo that? Who wants to take that? Among your 3.
Well, I wanted to take the pampering.
No, okay, I want to give you, okay.
Sure.
Okay, take the pampering, I'll take the other one.
So the one
Yeah,
with
the one with the deception.
You want to take that one?
Mhm.
Okay. Well, the pampering one, I was just going to show an example of how you can pamper your wife. One practical example. Can you bring your feet here? You can actually rub her feet. You know, that helps a lot. Especially when I've realized I don't even know how we did it one time, how we discovered that she loves a feet rub. Like, it just happened.
A child.
We didn't even know. She was pregnant. We were sitting on the couch one day. And is that how it just happened? And I just started playing with her feet, and she likes it. So that's one thing you can do. Pamper, rub her feet. That helps a lot.
Find ways.
Other thing is to listen. Listen. Listening just sit and listen. Even if what she's talking about, it doesn't resonate with you, but just listen. If you can just listen, that's another way to pamper your wife. Listening, rubbing her feet. Also, taking her out. Now, for me, I'd rather sit home and eat a good meal. But she's a foodie. She loves new, creative places that she discovers. She just loves it. And I'm like,
Okay, turn that on. All right. All right, go ahead. We're good.
working now? All right, there we go. So what were we saying? Okay, pamper, rub her feet, listen, take her out the places that she enjoys. So what? Oh, laundry. so there's certain chores that she doesn't like that I like doing, and there's certain chores that I don't like that she likes doing, right? It's a house, so we're all taking care of the house, right? And so, you know, it's funny at the laundry one. I laugh at the laundry one because yeah, you know, she doesn't like it. I like it. It allows me to think. It's just so funny. One thing that I discover about men is that all you have to do in life is to learn one woman. You just have to learn how to love one woman. And I think what we do is we negate that task and we make it about other things. If you learn to appreciate one woman and honor her and love her, then you'll see the value in that.
Thank you. We need to move quickly. And there's one that we have not addressed, the one that says where the sister is the husband in disguise. And the other one that says that I was tricked into this because he presented himself as a Christian, whereby he's an occult. So now, who wants to take the pretense?
The sister one.
The sister one? Go ahead.
I wonder in what context the sister came into the home. Was she already in the home in the beginning of the relationship, or is it something that happened?
But either way, even if she moved in a year or 2 months after marriage, she's already in. Now she's out the way. Tackle it.
She needs to get out.
Yep.
She needs to get out. You cannot have two kings in the house. You cannot have two masters in the house.
No, this go, yeah.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way, especially if, it depends on even how the brother perceives the sister as well. Is he perceiving the sister as the king in the house as well? Like, it's a very vague question.
The lady, it's not vague.
Yeah.
The lady rules the house.
The sister is in the ruling
What she
power.
says is what holds. And the man is no more man, is the sister's brother that now allowed the sister to rule his house. That's the case.
Plain and simple, they need to take themselves out of that situation. If they're going to leave the house for her, the husband and the wife need to come in agreement, one, and they need to take themselves out of that situation. There's just no way it can work.
It can cost them some money financially,
Yeah.
but they should agree together and set her somewhere, find a place for her, find an accommodation for her, and so that she can move on if they really want to keep their marriage.
Okay, the husband seems to like the role of the sister. So it takes two to tango. How can two people work together if they do not agree? Is the husband willing to let the wife, the sister go? And this is the point. We want to choose between me, your wife, or your sister. What if she said, well, I can't choose? And you said they should move out. What if they don't have the means to leave the house for her? This is the point. Is the husband and the wife both Christian? Are they in agreement as to what they subject themselves to? Are you submissive to a church? Okay, that is number one. If that is so, then you want to take this case to the church and let them look into the situation. Do you have a reasonable person, an adult of worthy character? Excuse me, yeah?
She responded. She says the brother sees the sister as the king in the house.
Okay, so there is no...
But she lives in a different country, but
The-
controls the brother from outside the home.
Okay, now can she take that to the... Are they Christian and can they go to this church and open this up? Because this, now I talk about two influences, the good and the bad third-party influence in marriage. This is definitely an example of negative third-party influence. You cannot come between the two that the Lord has joined together. Your role and the role of the church, the role of the family on both sides is to foster and strengthen this relationship. Anything out of that is not the will of God, it's not godly, it is demonic.
Yeah.
So if that is the case, and I believe that this lady is not married, so she's not busy in her own house. She's got a lot of time and she's bored in so many ways. And that is why she can poke into somebody's relationship and want to rule, because she's not even the mother-in-law. We know mother-in-law used to do that, and we tell them to hush and stay out and don't disturb the new life that you both supported and witnessed when the Lord put it together together during the holy matrimony. Now, this is the case. They need to both go to a place where they can subject themselves to good counsel that will tell them that no, it is not possible. She says something.
It's the same question. She's the same husband that's deceived her into.
Oh, that's the same one. Oh, okay, fine. Now that's good. Now let me say, this is the thing for me. Now, when the husband deceives you, I'm going to give you facts. One now. Number one, did you guys date enough for you to know? Because number one, you're supposed to know every member of his family. You're supposed to be able to know his friends, the people he flocked with a lot. And when you guys were dating, and I know that love at first sight, it can happen to anybody, and then you can be so trapped in a place that you don't have opportunity to know him like you're supposed to, and then people do not really inquire about this household and family like they're supposed to. But bottom line, it's already happened. You've been deceived, tricked into something, and you thought you are marrying a Christian, I presume. Now you end up marrying a devil himself. But now this is where it is, and the sister is ruling your house. The sister need to go. You need to go to look around his house. Does he have a father still? And does he have a mother? What kind of person? What kind of people are the parents? Are they people that are reasonable, that connect to something reasonable? Are they godly people? Do they attend church? Can you go to the parents' pastor and tell them what it is? Because we started to dabble into a marriage relationship of some of the people that I know. And when we got there, the case was so bad, and we had to close the case there, and we decided to go to the parents' house, the parents-in-law. And we have to deal with situation there before we can come back to the couple before the Lord gave us the grace. Now, if you will have to go to the parents of your husband and relate, because they have male child, they have female child. No parent will want to subject their female child under the rulership of a woman in the house. If they agree to that, well, I'm not saying you should divorce him, but you need to take this to the next level, even if you have to involve but she's not even living with them. And she's controlling them remotely from another country. I don't know what to say. Does your husband have any juice left for this marriage?
Yeah.
Does he still want you to? Do you have children with him that you already joined permanently? Or if he really wants to see peace in the house, tell him to connect with us. We need to tell him what menu to tell man.
Yeah. And also, so you said he's part of a cult. Was that the same example?
Yeah.
And on top of that, the woman is. So when your husband is part of a cult, right? You don't
It's
know
tough.
what the spiritual head is, right? So it sounds like what happens, and I don't know the details of this situation, but if the sister is ruling, that means there's some authority that's been given to her. That's been, the word is, abdicated. So as the man, he should be able to be over his house. So because he's part of a cult, at that point, what tends to happen is that the rulership of that house is now tied to the demonic realm, right? The rulership. So you have to do battle with that. You can't battle your husband because the rulership, what's ruling him, is not natural. It's not like he went out there, drank, got drunk, come home, and you're dealing with alcohol, or he takes drugs, or this is a spiritual battle. So let's set that foundation. This is not a battle that we can talk. So I agree with the advice of contacting the ministry, contacting the church. So it's a spiritual battle. It has to be fought within that realm at this point. So the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. So we understand that. So you're pulling down strongholds at this point. You have to go to the source of this. And one of the things that I realize is that there is a realm that you have to step into, that you have the power as his wife that you can step into now, because you guys have been joined. What God has joined together, you now have power because the Lord sees you. The Lord sees this situation. So you have to battle it on that level. Now, there's so many spiritual strategies that we can teach you and talk to you about that we don't have time to get into today, but understand that you're fighting a spiritual battle, understanding that it's being fought in another realm, and go into that realm and claim the authority and the power that you have and defeat it at that level, and you'll see it manifest in real life.
And the next thing you want to do in all that you do, the church and all that, don't forget prayer. Go on your knees. That will work like magic. It's a miracle that is coming your way if you will heed that.
Lastly, she just said that the husband has moved out of the house, left her with 2 kids to take care of.
Okay, now I will say in a way, congratulations. You know what? If an ungodly man should leave you, you are free. But as long as he wants you, you cannot leave. But if he leave you, you just you just bag your freedom. So God, and my prayer for you is that God will give you what you need to nurture these children, and He will empower you. Now you are a free woman.
She says thank you.
You're welcome.
Just free.
She's free. Yes. So this is the time. All that we are saying is that submission is necessary. Submission is possible in a relationship where the man follows God. So he's subject to the authority of God, and so you can be under him as he is under God. You are bowing to the devil of a husband because it's not under God's authority. So he cannot nurture you and he cannot lead you. He cannot take the submissiveness you are rendering to him and use it as something that he can adorn and cherish. But he will ride on your horse back because he's not under God. And that is the whole flip. And that is how you can be dominated and you can be subdued. And it might become a modern-day slavery because you are following somebody that is not following God. So check who you get married to. Before you tighten up, know who this person is. And I tell you, there's a lot of people, when your parents is saying, watch out, are you really listening? Or your neck is already so bent and you are saying, no, this is whatever it is, I will marry him. Then when you go in, you marry a devil. And then when your parents are telling you as a man that watch this woman, it's not the pretty face that is all. You may be marrying a Jezebel, and by the time you go, oh, you think it's only the men that torture the woman. I have seen the women that almost kill men. It's just a very few percentage, but it does happen. Either way, man or woman, you are to submit one to the other and cherish one another as equal before the Lord. Now, by the way of positioning, the Lord put the man up, and not to rule you with iron fists, but to nurture you and to just lead you gently like the shepherd will lead the sheep to a place of pasture and flourish, where they can flourish. That is what we are saying here. You want to say something?
Yes, it's what Pastor just said now is really very important, to be able to listen to our parents, because they brought you to this world.
That is what we are saying here. You want to say something?
So it's very, very important to listen to our parents because they hear from God, especially. Our family members, I can list up to like 5 in my own family, that the parents are saying no to this marriage. And they went ahead and they did it. And it was a sad story in every situation. And they end up divorcing. So we need to listen. If our parents say no, let it go. Just leave it alone.
Just leave it alone. Now this other thing is that your parents, there are always 3 things that you should consider before you marry. Listen to 3 voices. The voice of the parents, the voice of your pastor, and the still small voice within you. All those 3 should be in agreement and then walk into it. Anything less than that, I pray that what you seek in marriage is joy and happiness. You may not get that when you go on by yourself. And if you look at most developed countries, the marriage is already derailed even before it starts. They jump in, this is what it said. It said, and the man will leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and the 2 shall become one. Look at the progress. He leaves, he cleaves, and they become intimate. In the modern day that we are, a pastor was speaking, a radio talk show, a pastor, he said we have reversed it, we've turned it upside down. We become intimate. And then maybe we might want to cleave. And then we see another will become intimate. And this one is already done. But you leave first. Then you cleave. And then you become intimate. And become one. The oneness is oneness, one in purpose. Not two people just become a flesh. He said become one flesh. Now the one flesh might be the thing that comes out in your intimacy. The child carries you, carries down, become one. But your oneness is one singleness in purpose. Unidirectional. You are all together moving towards one place. And when you want to derail a little bit, then you have a little bump and you come back again, you continue. So you leave, you cleave, and you become intimate. But if you reverse the order, it's chaos.
And just on that note about leaving and becoming one, men, please listen to your wives also. They have tremendous amount of wisdom. If we had it all, and we had everything that we needed in our own abilities, we wouldn't need a wife. God put somebody together with you that balances you. And there's been times where I have listened, even though I thought I knew what I wanted to do, but because I took time to hear the wisdom that was coming from my wife, I made a better decision by listening to her also. So it's powerful when two people come together and they understand how to listen and obey and submit and work that thing out, because it's not some magic formula. It's understanding each other and knowing that, Lord, in this moment I want to make this decision, but there's wisdom coming from her and I can hear it. I can be humble enough to hear that and say, okay, God, thank you for speaking to me through her.
Now we're going to round up. It's 9 o'clock, but I just want to pray for our marriages. I want to pray for your marriages. I want to just seek the face of the Lord for those women that are in bondage today, not because they are criminals, not that they are in the physical jail, but they are going through torture worse than those that are in jail. But this is a decision they walked into not knowing what lies ahead. And now they are already tied in, chained down. And they cannot just free themselves. It would take divine intervention, Lord coming to break through and to intervene and take you away, that will cause the man to just pack his load and leave, or make the woman to get on her knees and pray and cry to the Lord. And the Lord that's here in secret can come relieve you, bring justice and separate you from the torture in public. So Father, we lift up this relationship all over the world, where women, the weaker vessels, are being misused, abused, trampled underfoot. These are children of some parents, lovely daughters that were nurtured, and they almost destroy their future. And they have a mental derailment because they don't seem to even know who they are anymore. Under intense beating, misuse, abuse, abandonment. Lord, I pray, oh God, you are the God of second chance. You can take the ruin and reproduce, and the ashes of the ruined thing, you can create something beautiful. I pray, oh, that beautiful ashes will become their portion. In the name of Jesus, that you will raise up, you will touch men and soften the heart of stone and put a heart of compassion in them. And they can see these people not as enemy, not as slaves that they capture from a war, but as equal partners that is meant to bring fulfillment to their lives, and so they should act accordingly. So I pray for every woman, some that have died even in relationship, and vice versa, very little percentage of men that are under torture. But I pray that God, you will intervene. Because every woman that gets married following the order of God, and they would not for that come into a place of regret. So I pray divine intervention for all our women and our daughters that are suffering in the hands of heartless men. I pray for a reversal. And we give you glory today. In Jesus' name. Help us to give us, please send to us topics that you really want us to talk about. We will compile this from time to time and we'll come up with the one with the highest number. We'll meet again this time next week. God bless you. Thank you.